Vaccines. Sure, they prevent diseases, but do they do more harm than good? There are a lot of questions out there about vaccines, and I needed answers, so I asked around to get some opinions.
Carolyn, since your response was the shortest and required no editing, you go first.
Hi. I just wanted to share that I think that vaccines are good for preventing illness, but I do not agree with the aggressive vaccine schedule that most doctors suggest. I do not feel it's good for babies and toddlers to be introduced to so many foreign drugs at once when they're still young and growing and their bodies are fragile. I prefer to have my children receive their vaccines just 1 or 2 at a time instead of the usual 5 to 6 that's recommended by many doctors. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Donna, you're up next.
As a child, I was vaccinated against several diseases which could be life-threatening. I remember receiving those vaccines at school. We never questioned the process or the reasons behind the vaccines. There are now many more vaccinations available to us, but I am sometimes confused about the risks versus the benefits. I am very concerned about the safety of vaccines. When I have questions about vaccines, I am forced to seek out information on my own, and that process can be very overwhelming at times. It is very easy to find the various opinions regarding the safety and benefits of vaccines, but the truth is very hard to find.
It says here that Donna is concerned about FDA recalls and if we can trust vaccines because of recalled medicines. Sorry to edit that out, but I said it faster. Okay, well that's enough opinion. Can we get someone in here with some answers? Who's this guy?
My name is John, and I think I can answer some questions about vaccines for you.
Oh, so you're a vaccine expert. No, but I am a student who's planning on becoming a vaccine engineer, so I probably know more about the subject than the average person. Ka-ching. Wait, what was that? Oh, I just changed it so it would say student. Yeah, okay, don't do that. Alright, well let's go over what exactly it is in vaccines. I'll tell you what ingredient that's in them and you tell me what it's there for and what it does. Alright, I've done a lot of research on this sort of thing on the CDC and FDA websites. Let's do this. Sure you have. Egg protein. Albumin. It's a culture medium for vaccines. It also is naturally occurring in humans. And though egg allergies are fairly common in children, they're pretty rare in adults. And egg-free vaccines are always available. Formaldehyde. It's a tissue fixative, but it's embalming fluid. Now your body produces it during the digestive process and uses it to make certain amino acids. An infant will have more formaldehyde occurring in it naturally than was contained in vaccines. And if you're really interested in limiting your formaldehyde intake, I would avoid pears, bananas, apricots, potatoes, and sucking the fluids out of embalmed corpses. So, does that happen a lot? Polysorbate 80. It's an emulsifier and a solubilizer in vaccines, and it's found in a lot of foods. It's supposed to cause infertility in mice. Are you a mouse? No. It's found naturally in plants and animals. It's completely safe. Okay, sodium chloride and calcium chloride. Seriously? Table salt and calcium salt? Your body needs both sodium and calcium to function properly. And these salts make vaccines isotonic to the human body, so it prevents cell damage. Monosodium Monosodium glutamate. Vaccines contain it to extend their shelf life. And you'll find more than twice as much naturally occurring MSG in a serving of grape juice or peas. Potassium phosphate. Hey, I can pronounce that one. It's a pH buffer, and your body needs both chemicals to function properly. Thimerosal. Yeah, I've heard of that. That has mercury in it, doesn't it? Okay, I think we need to take some time with this one. Yes, it is a compound that has an ethylmercury group on it, and it's primarily found in flu vaccines, although thimerosal-free vaccines are always available. But it's got mercury in it. Yes, but you'll get about as much mercury in a serving of salmon as you would in a shot. And the mercury found in seafood is actually methylmercury, which actually goes into tissue, especially brain tissue, easier because it's a smaller molecule. Also, methylmercury has a half-life in blood of about 44 days compared to 3.7 days of ethylmercury. And I think the reason this is because methylmercury shares a similarity in shape of 6 side chains of amino acids, and ethylmercury has no similarities in shapes at all. And I checked this by comparing the molecules with the amino acids in my biology book. It says here that a shot can have 50,000 times the concentration of mercury than the EPA allows in water. That is 100% true. Wait, what? That's true. It's just that I didn't think you would agree with me. Oh, it's true, but it's very misleading. That is the concentration of about 25 micrograms of mercury in about half a milliliter of vaccine, and that converts into a parts per billion of about 50,000. Although that's just the concentration of the vaccine itself, and not the concentration of the vaccine when it enters the bloodstream. The average human adult has about 6 liters of blood in them, and so if you go from a parts per billion calculation from about half a milliliter to 6 liters, the concentration of mercury will fall to about 4.2 parts per billion. And that's about 175 times lower than what the EPA says is safe for seafood. And this is pretty easy chemistry. So what about mercury and autism? Do you want to engineer vaccines so they don't cause autism as much, or so they cause more autism? But vaccines don't cause autism. But according to Andrew Wake, if you say Wakefield, I'm going to scream. Wake. Whoa, you were serious. Alright, let me be perfectly clear. In my opinion, there has been no single study in the history of science that has caused more harm, undue suffering, and death in the world's population than the one that Andrew Wakefield published. It's absolutely horrible. You can go read it yourself online. There's big, bold red letters that say retracted on the top of it. And it wasn't even about mercury in the first place, it was about the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. And in the conclusion, it states specifically that there is no connection between the MMR vaccine and the conditions are studied, and the ones that they studied were autism. He lied, the media reported on it without checking the actual research documents themselves, and they spread it around the world. And the whole idea that mercury comes in to cause autism came in afterwards. And if you even ask a typical Colorado parent today why they don't vaccinate their children, they will cite Andrew Wakefield's study. So vaccines don't cause autism? And there's science behind all of this. Yes, in Stacey Harley's and Allison Haygood's book, Your Baby's Best Shot, they cite over a dozen studies. All of them are peer-reviewed and none of them are retracted. So what about exposing kids to all those dead virus parts, and they can get up to 5 shots at a time? Surely that's got to cause some autism. Compared to the amount of antigens that people are exposed to in a typical day, it's nothing. Besides, earlier this year, there was a study published by Frank DiStefano that showed there is no connection between increased antigen exposure from vaccines and autism. Okay. So if you have all of this evidence that backs you up, then why do people still believe the vaccines cause autism? Simple. Confirmation bias. People tend to put more faith in what they see or read if it already conforms to what they believe in. And we also tend to reject evidence that contradicts our personal biases. I think it was Marshall Shermer who put it best when he called the brain being made of logic-tight compartments. He's cited studies that new evidence that people are presented with can sometimes suppress old biases but never supplant them fully. And if people are actively confronted with something that shakes their personal beliefs, it can cause people to be more vocal in those beliefs. Okay, final words go. And there was a study that was released on November 28th, 2013 by William Van Panhuis in the New England Journal of Medicine. And he and his team used Tycho, which is digitalized medical records back from 1888. They specifically looked at vaccination records dating from 1924 to the present. And they have estimated that about 103 million illnesses have been prevented by vaccination alone. And I don't think there's any good reason to undo all of that work just because some people are being fed misinformation by vaccines. So it's my hope that someone who sees this will reconsider their stance and look to good peer-reviewed scientific studies for answers to their questions about vaccines.
Okay, more words than I wanted, but good.
Thank you.
So are we done here? I'm hungry. Who wants lunch? That was awesome.